Because who pays the price for that? We do. The regular people do. And my folks friends on the left, they all agree with that, right? You know, a lot of them are anti-corporate. I'm not anti-corporate, I just don't like that intersection. Where they have a difference with me is I say the same thing is true. Giant unions, giant money intersecting with government, is that a problem? Of course it is. Who suffers when that happens? We do. Exactly the same thing. So what you've got is this stacked up ruling elite stacked against the people. What about big fat universities with multi-billion-dollar endowments like Harvard University? Big academia crossed with big government, who pays the price? We do. This is a theme, and it's a really important theme in American politics today, if you ask me. We are in a period in history where we are suffering tyranny. It is the government against the people. It's actually under now, 20% of American people believe that the federal government has the consent of the governed. That's roughly equivalent to what the colonists thought about King George. Really, numbers-wise. We look back, we try to pull through history what the colonists thought. Only about 20% thought that the king was the legitimate governing authority in the colonies. We're at a pre-revolutionary moment in our history. This is very dangerous. Thank God the founders blessed us with these documents that allow us to have a peaceful revolution in this country. We don't need to shed blood, there doesn't need to be violence, but we do need to take back our country. This is critical. We must take back our country. Will the politicians take back the country? If you elect the right people, will they take back our country? No. No, they won't. They've proven it to us. Anybody vote during the 90s?
Oh, yeah.
Remember Ronald Reagan and we had control of both houses? How'd that work out for us? I mean, we're all sitting here right now, aren't we? So it didn't work out so well. The only people who will take back that country is us. Community level. Community by community. City councils, county boards of supervisors, school boards. That's where we take back the community. That's where the real fight for the heart and soul of America is. You know, I'm really lucky I get to do this all across the country. And I'm in this year is really charged, right, with the presidential election. Everybody's really wants to know who's going to be the next president of the United States. In the media right now, 80% of the questions I get asked, whether I'm on Cavuto or Hannity or Tom Sullivan here, you guys know Tom? You like Tom Sullivan? He's a great guy. So they always want to talk about the presidential election. I'm going to say something that might offend some people. I don't really care all that much about the presidential election. Why don't I care? Look, do I want to see Barack Obama removed? Yes, I think the majority of Americans do too. The candidates that are running on the Republican side, you know, I think a can of soda would make a better president. So I'm not that particular. But here's the deal. This is a power pyramid. The president is at the top of the power pyramid. Citizens have the least impact and the least influence at the top of the power pyramid, right? How many of you have had lunch with the president so that you could tell him exactly what you think about his policies? Me either. We're never going to be invited. Even if it's a president who's friendly to you, you're not going to sit down with the president. How many of you have sat down with your United States Senator to tell him what you think of California, or her in our case? I hate to I won't mention their names. I can't even. The evil twins. Have any of you been invited to sit down to lunch with either of the evil twins and tell them what you think? It's not going to happen. And even if you had Republican senators in those seats, it's not going to happen. How many of you have ever sat in a room and been able to have a conversation with your congressional representative from the House of Representatives? Raise your hand. Okay, so that's pretty extraordinary, right? The People's House. They call it the People's House for a reason, because you have influence there. Because our representatives actually do care what we think. That's where I think that's really kind of the highest level where it matters to us on a day-to-day basis. And then I think the further you go down the power pyramid, right down to the governor, to the state assembly, and the House, down into the districts. This is where I think it matters, down into the city councils and the county boards. Look, I want to save the country. Do you guys want to save the country? Yes. I promise you, we will not save the country by electing a Republican majority to the House, Senate, and the presidency. We won't. Is it a good thing? I personally think it's a good thing, but it's not going to save the country. They're going to drift off, maybe a little bit more slowly than the Democrats, but they're going to take us over the same cliff eventually. Yeah. And the thing is, in 4 years, that can swing back, can't it? It has. Have you guys seen it swing enough times in your lifetime to understand that? I've seen it in my lifetime. And so the problem is that's not the fix. If that's not the fix, what is? The fix is generational change. And generational change comes by taking over city councils, county governments, school boards, and state legislatures. History shows us, the numbers shows us, those people rise up through the system. We hopefully keep an eye on them because that's our part. And then you get generational change. Then 25 years from now, 30 years, 50 years, you look around, and I figure maybe I'll be sitting in a stroller at that point in a wheelchair on the porch, and I'll tell my son Jacob, who's here with me, look, I did the best I could, and we left you the best foundation we possibly could because we were seeking generational change, not just political change. I think that's what we have to do. Okay, so real quickly, I want to close with a couple of points. You heard Gwen mention that I've got some books over there. This is not to shill for the books, but I want you guys to understand what's over there. The book's coming out February 14th. It's called Tea Party Patriots, the Second American Revolution. We're launching it on Sean Hannity's show. Anybody like Sean? He's a nice guy. That's right, very nice guy. So we'll be on the show on the night of the 13th. Now the books that are over there are unusual. They're what are called galley copies. And this is all new to me. I've never written a book before. When you write a book and you turn in your manuscript, the publisher returns the book to you in manuscript form, but it's bound now in a soft cover, because they just want you to see what it looks like and make sure it lays out right and it looks like you want it to look. In that manuscript are all the embarrassing mistakes I made. So don't hold that against me. It's not the real book, but it's interesting. There are only a few copies of that will ever be made. It's probably under 50 copies in the world. And so those are what I used when I first looked at them. So if you get those, there are no more of those ever being made. So that's a great thing, and it raises money for the chapter. Also, everything over there, remember, you guys are the financial support for the chapter. It's really important that you do that, that you help them out. I noticed there's some beautiful baskets over there. And so if you could bid on those things, that really helps Gwen and the team to do everything they're doing here. There's some fundamental things I think we can do to change the country. And some of these are in the book. It's why I bring up the book. In 1913, there were some fundamental mistakes that were made in American history. The Federal Reserve started in 1913. Anybody think we have a problem with the Federal Reserve? That's a long story. I'm not an expert there, but it's a mess. And so that happened in 1913. In 1913, the federal government imposed by the 16th Amendment, Constitutional Amendment, the federal income tax. Anybody love paying income taxes? No, not really. I mean, I don't mind paying taxes. We like paying taxes, but there was never supposed to be a financial relationship between the federal government and the individual taxpayer. It created an imbalance in this perfect balance that the founders had created. It allowed the federal government to go around the state government directly to the individual. That's a problem. I think we should repeal the 16th Amendment. 17th Amendment. Anybody who knows what the 17th Amendment provided for? Most of us don't know. I didn't know before this. Direct election of U.S. senators. There was a time when the U.S. senators were appointed by the state legislatures. I mean, it seems crazy now. And why would we change it? So it seems crazy now, but think about the balance. The senators were supposed to represent the state government, not you, but the government in Washington. Why is that? Because Washington consolidates power. And the senators were supposed to say, no, you can't have my state's power. Unfunded mandates. The federal government imposes rules and regulations on California that cost billions of dollars, and then they say to us, and you guys enjoy paying for those. Right? You have no say. Now imagine a senator who worked for the state government coming home and saying, hey, just wanted to let you guys know, I just voted to impose billions of dollars of fees on you guys, and I got you no money for it. And that's the state would say, no, wait, what are you talking about? Come home. We're removing you. That's the way it was supposed to be. It was a beautiful balance of power. We broke that in 1913. And when I tell my friends on the left this crazy idea about repealing the 17th Amendment, they often say, well, Mark, you don't understand your history. The Senate was very corrupt, and that's why we decided to provide for the direct election of senators.